Hello, we're live. Welcome back to Unconventional Asians, where every Friday we have a badass Asian that comes on the show to really showcase and inspire us to be unapologetically ourselves. So today we have Nguyen with us from Vancouver, but she's originally from Australia. So you hear her beautiful accent.
Hello, how are you?
And so yeah, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Clover, for having me on the show. It's been amazing experience to even have a chat with you and reconnect with you. Didn't realize I have a long lost twin, all the way in Toronto. So I'm so happy and honored that we've connected.
Yeah. So I just want to give the audience some context why we're saying we're twins. First of all, we're both Gemini, so that's already a twin sign. And our background is very similar in terms of our parental divorce story, and we came to become super independent and resilient as a result. So I would love to, have you share your story with the audience, like what happened and how it got you to who you are today.
Yes, for sure. So it was a funny story. I actually connected with Clover on another friend's business page. And I was just like, hey, just wanted to reach out because I always sort of just started a podcast recently called Limitless Callings in relation to kind of like go through a healing process in 2020 and also share some stories of people around the world who might be going through these difficult times also. Straight away, I got deep and meaningful with Clover and realized that we have a very similar kind of background story in terms of our upbringing. So I was expressing to Clover that it's been a very long journey. I felt really alone back at home when my parents were going through a divorce when I was around 10 years old and living in a smaller city. I just felt like it was very shameful. And in a way, I was judged by people if I were to ever speak about these things that were going back at home. I was telling Clover that I had a best friend, and I heard from someone that her parents didn't want her to hang out with me anymore due to my parents going through a divorce. So I think what it did then was it caused kind of like a really deep underlying kind of like mindset of like, fear of being able to ever express who I am or things that I went through as a means to be like everyone else or fit in, And so what happened was my parents went through divorce and my mom was in like kind of, there was some infidelity and stuff happening as well. So growing up, I was a very angry child. Like, we were always fighting. We didn't see eye to eye. I didn't get along with my stepdad either. So that caused a lot of issues in the family. Got kicked out of home like 4 times as well.
Wow.
So a little bit of a shithead. Sorry.
That's awesome. I loved authenticity. Do whatever you like.
Because I think at that time I was just like, I really lost that respect for my mom, and everything like that. So it was hard for me to ever understand her, or I was angry that she couldn't understand me. So I got kicked out of home quite a lot. And I had a brother. Well, I have a brother, and he was also going through the divorce issues, but he was also trying to figure out his sexuality at the same time. So for him, it was very hard, and I didn't know how to deal with these things emotionally because all I knew was to act like everything's okay, brush everything under the rug, go to school. And when I moved schools, like my friends would ask me like, what's the reason for moving? Like what's with the situation? And I would just be like, you know what, it's nothing. Like I just wanted, my parents thought it's time to move school. So I would never even speak about it. And even with my closest friends, like growing up, they were like, they would try to bring things out of me, but I just couldn't, it was just like, it was just too much.
Right.
So in turn, like I think over the years, as you get older and you go into university and then you start drinking, you start partying as you do, a lot of the emotions I held under and brushed under the rug, as a child, it became really reactive. So I don't know if I told you about this analogy, Clover, the Furby analogy.
No.
So, okay, my analogy is, on the outside, I might seem like a cute Furby, but when you get triggered by water, so the life triggers, I turn to a gremlin. So that was kind of like my upbringing. Like I was very reactive, and just really angry all the time, and I just didn't know how to channel it. And I was really competitive in sports. I did
Mhm.
Muay Thai, I did Taekwondo, was very athletic, because that was a means for me to
Yes.
really exert that energy and all that anger into something. And
Mhm.
I was hard on myself, from all that, because I had so much pent up anger and so much like focus to be the best. In a way, we were saying that it was kind of like a means to prove something. So I was trying to prove to my mom that I'm everything that she's not. Like, you're weak
Mm.
mentally, you're weak emotionally, you rely on a guy to provide for you. Like, I don't want to be anything like that. And that's why it became this pattern, this kind of like shell that I created for myself for years, just to be like, you know what, I'm independent, I can take care of myself, like I don't need anybody.
Yeah.
But yeah, but actually I'm such a squishy jelly bean these days.
Oh.
I've been really trying to get more in tune with, like, let's say, my vulnerability. And we were talking about this the other day, like we saw vulnerability as such a weakness, growing up, because we were so scared of letting anyone in or ever feeling hurt again, that it became a problem. It was so hard for me to let people in. It was so hard for me to feel emotions. For me, it's just like, not just escapism, go drinking, go partying, go traveling. Traveling's amazing, it's great, it's therapeutic, but it became escapism as well.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, and yeah, there's just no escaping it. So like I said, it was like 2020 was like an opportunity to sit down, and I had nowhere to go. We're all in lockdown. So blessing in disguise, I was able to face these deep and underlying issues that I was in denial for a very long time. And it really caused me a lot of unhappiness for myself and for the relationships that I was looking for, because I never felt that I was enough.
Yes.
Let's say finding a healthy relationship, or feeling like I am enough for someone better, because I maybe had to dull myself down, my energy level down.
Mhm.
But it was more of like a self-growth kind of like year for me. And like I said, it's so scary. Well, just like, it's so scary to reveal that and be like, hey guys, like, this is me, I have problems. So,
Yeah.
and I'm okay with it, I want to deal with it, rather than just be like, there's no problem. Anybody wants to go for a drinking session with me or something like that? So it's been very healing. And I'm just so grateful that since I've opened up and really allowed myself to accept these parts of myself, I started meeting really like-minded people like yourself. I was like,
Mhm.
what the hell? I was telling my housemates the other day, like, after our conversation, it was like, you could not believe I found my twin. Like, I've never such a similar background story. And it really helped uplift me. Like, I was just like, for so long, I thought I was really alone in everything, and rather do everything alone, because I have so much energy and all this, this ego to protect myself.
Yes.
Now I can be like, what? You know what? There's people like me. There's people who might want to hear my story, because they might even need to, get that little push for their healing as well. And yeah, that's why I was like, I'm so grateful, like, that we met.
Thank you. That was amazing. It just, you can put into words so much better than I can in terms of describing the story. So whatever happened to her happened to me.
So that's what you were saying. You're just like, just tell them your story. I was like, okay. So, yeah.
That's my story. So it's interesting because I think what stands out as well is that the infidelity from our parents came
Mm.
from our mom,
Yes.
which is a bit unusual.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but I think in terms of my experience, I absolutely created a lot of resentment as
Mm.
well during the process. But I actually targeted that resentment towards my dad, which is interesting because he was the one who raised me. And it
Mm.
was my mom who left us for another man. But for some reason, I could understand her perspective.
Yeah.
Not that I agree with what she did,
Mhm.
but I could also understand how hard it is to live with my dad. um, but now, kind of looking back in hindsight and just realizing that there's many shades of gray when you look at her perspective. It's
Mhm.
like my mom might have cheated, but there's a lot of underlying factors and issues of why she did that.
Mhm.
And then same with my dad, like why is he being so traditional and practical and all those things that I really hated in a way? But then it's because he was in survival mode. He needs to do all those things. He didn't have the capacity at the time to nurture me in a way that seemed very supportive. But in hindsight, it's the best opportunity that I had, because otherwise I wouldn't be the person I am today. That independence and resilience and all of those great qualities that make me able to stand on my own. There's pros and cons with every quality, but at the same time, I'm just grateful that it happened, because I'd rather be independent than dependent, because you can always learn to go the other way. It's easier.
And it's so interesting because, like, when you said that, even though your dad was the one that, you know, did the right things by means of you and your brother, that more of the anger was directed at him. And I was telling you that I only saw like my mom being at fault this whole time. And it took me, we didn't talk for 4.5 years because I was so mad at her. I had to cut her out. Just like, I'm not dealing anymore with this negativity and whatnot. And what happened before moving to Vancouver, during my backpacking trip, I started to kind of really reflect on it and understand that, you know, there's actually two sides to a story also.
Always.
And yeah, like, and do you know what? It was just, I just couldn't see before. But you know, as I got older and started to become more mature, like my mom always said to me, like, one day you understand. Like, I could also recognize why my dad would have been hard to live with also. And they were 10 years, like, you know, apart, like as in he was 10 years her senior, you know. So maybe the things she wanted, you know, to experience and within the marriage is different to what he wanted, you know, just a typical traditional housewife. But she's just like, come on, I'm still in my 20s, let's like do stuff, let's like things. And it was just a good match overall. But it took me a very long time to come to terms and accept that as well, you know, that maybe, you know, there was more to the story in a sense.
And so how did you overcome that? And have you forgiven them? Like, did you talk about it with them?
Oh, it's like I said, it's been such a long journey. Like, it was only through last year, through when I started healing and accepting all these, that I'm able to be like, I fully forgive my mom and I've let go. And for me, that's huge because it's been such a heavy weight on my shoulders and really deep rooted within me, you know. And I couldn't move on or be happy with myself or who I'm becoming because of this, you know. And the thing it was, just before moving here, I did recognize that, you know, if something did happen, you know, I would regret it. But back then I'll be like, nope, I don't care if she dies. She's not coming to my wedding. Who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's something in me kind of told me, like, you know what, you know, like when you're so in the mix of like negativity, you know, you forget about the good things. Like when I was sick, when I was little, you know, like who fed me, who bathed me, you know, and stuff like that. And you forget about it. And I reached out to be like, hey mom, like I'm actually moving abroad to work and stuff. That she still thinks I'm gallivanting around the world, you know, smoking darts, breaking hearts, but you know, that's not the case. Yeah, I was just like, you know what, I'm moving away, I'm opening this up to let you know. And throughout 2020, when things were, you know, slowing down, everything like that, I spoke to her so much more. You know, we called her a lot. I was able to reconnect with my baby brother as well because he lives with her. And it has become really healing. Like I can say that I have no hatred, no anger whatsoever. And when people say, like, you know, healing and forgiveness does takes time, it does definitely take time, and it does have to start within yourself as well. I feel like if I wasn't able to accept any of this, you know, within myself or the issues I have internally, I wouldn't be able to take those actions, you know, and forgive, to let it go. Of course, you know, it was hard, you know, because that's all I knew, but I am grateful that it's actually like happened. And now I called her back for Christmas. I know I was telling you, but we were just chatting normally, and like she passed the phone around the house with my grandparents' house, and everyone's like, Nyung, where's the husband? Where's the boyfriend? Why are you being so picky?
Of course. Yep. There's a new set of expectations now.
Yeah, they're just like, come on, you know, you're passing your due by date, you know, like turn to sour milk. I'm like, I know it's like blue cheese by now, you know, my due by date, but I'm happy, you know, and that's the thing. Yeah. But yeah, overcoming this has definitely been a lot of the work done in myself, I would say. Yeah.
Then I'm curious, what kind of work specifically have you done? Like, did you do more like a therapist type of work, or have you done like just like self-help books or courses or workshops? What does that look like for you with that inner work
Okay.
journey?
Yeah, for sure. So I think what I didn't recognize before this was, a lot of my therapy and output in, let's say, emotional distress was through sports. That's why I
Mm,
was so focused and so competitive.
right.
And then I would say traveling was actually backpacking by myself was also therapeutic in the sense that it gave
Mhm.
me a sense of independence and letting go, of things. I
Mm,
can't be in control of things all the time. When you're
yes,
backpacking,
100%.
yeah, like you have to learn to let go. Things always happen, and it means to teach you like problem
Mhm,
solving on the spot.
mhm, mhm,
So that was a big lesson for me during my backpacking trip. And the next lesson when I learned was, I think by 2019, even moving to Vancouver and starting a new job, new life, I was still so unhappy. And I told myself, what, get out of this cycle, get out of this pattern. You don't want to feel shit about yourself anymore. There's so much to look forward to. Like, even though you're so vibrant and so happy on the outside, but there's still something missing there.
yeah.
I started meditating every single day. So for
Mm,
me, I never could see myself meditating back then because I'm so high energy. So, pocket rocket, I can't sit still. Yoga is not for me. I fall asleep in the back of classes.
uh-huh.
But yeah, I can't do
I
it.
was exactly the same way. Yeah.
I'm just like,
And now
what?
that I
Yoga?
meditate every day too. Yeah.
I'd rather just sleep. Don't tell me about yoga. Yeah.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, so by reprogramming and having that ability to practice stillness has really helped in the sense of kind of like clearing my mind and controlling my emotions as well. Like I find that the old Nyung, Nyung was very reactive. I would jump to
Mhm,
conclusion like, nope, my way or the highway. I'm not taking bullshit from anybody, kind of thing. But now I can be like, recognize that when I'm starting to feel something, I will feel it and kind of wait it out. Um,
mm,
kind of acknowledge it, kind of thing. And back then it was just I couldn't, I just said, nope, just get out of my way,
mhm,
and some of that. But meditation has helped me really quieten that, and really take some time to respond. I started journaling as well. So what I
mhm,
really was going through was a bit of like low self-esteem and ego kind of like situation,
yeah.
like I said, from all the underlying
Mhm,
issues. Couldn't get into like healthy kind of relationships and stuff like that. So I always thought that maybe I'm not enough and stuff. So affirmations
mhm,
daily has really helped me. Also, I keep reminding myself like, come on, man, you're a badass. Like, what are you talking about? Remind yourself of your victories, things that you've already achieved. And when you're just so in the mix of, let's say, chasing the next new thing just to get that validation, you forget about what you've achieved. So I've been really trying to go back, like, hey man, you made it this far. You're healthy, you're well, you have a roof over your head, you're not living in the streets and stuff. So for me, that has really been helpful, like telling myself good things about myself.
mhm.
Um, and I've also tried hypnotherapy. I think we was touching this
Okay.
in the last
Yeah,
time. Yep.
yeah.
So that's kind of like hypnosis, but not really in that form.
Mhm,
So
mhm,
I did this session with a therapist that I did like a 5 session of effective coaching with, and what he did was he took me through like 3 really deep underlying scenarios of my childhood to kind of like help me recognize like where it stemmed from.
mhm,
Um,
mhm.
what he discovered was that I had a really like deep underlying fear of like rejection and abandonment.
Mm.
Yeah, and what he helped me do was to separate the entity and told me to say goodbye to it. So I don't need that anymore.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so great.
Hmm.
It's so interesting how a lot of the behaviors that we are repeating or the patterns that we're repeating nowadays rooted into one very traumatic experience that we learned from childhood. And just from
Yeah.
psychology, it's because when we're 0 to, I don't know, 7 or 8, that's when our brain is completely in the subconscious mind, where
Mm.
there's no discernment and there's no analysis because our ego has not kicked in. And
Mhm.
so everything that happened to us seems like it's true. So even though it might not be, but because we could not analyze the situation, we take it on. And then we continue living our adulthood like we are a child. And so in
Yes.
order to reprogram that, then sometimes we have to take uh, go to therapy or hypnotherapy to kind of
Mm.
go back to the root cause of it. And it's so great that you kind of took it I just took the opportunity and look at your issues clearly and not run away from it, because that's such a default that we use as an independent woman. It's like we can do it ourselves. We don't need help from coaches or therapists to tell us like what we can do, right? We can just accomplish everything on our own. At least on my side, I also have a people pleasing tendency.
Yeah, like,
On top of that way. So it's like, oh, no, I better not burden other people. So let me just figure this out on my own. So
yeah,
like, it's so great that you were able to start being vulnerable and just realizing that weakness is also not a weakness. It's just a human condition. Sometimes it happened to us. It's not up to us that we didn't choose those experiences coming from, you know, a difficult background. But it's like the response of being ultra independence. I heard somewhere that it's a trauma response.
yes, you did tell me that.
Yeah. And so instead of seeing it as it's a great quality, not to say being independent is amazing, but it's like when it becomes too much, where we're now shutting off other people from our lives and not allowing love and connection in, and that's where we hurt ourselves, right?
Definitely.
So I love that you're kind of exploring different avenues of modalities of healing in order to get where you are today. So thank you for sharing
so
all that.
much.
Yeah.
Like you do. Like, I mean, like we were speaking about it, there was such a huge stigma, especially in Asian community, when it comes to, let's say, going to therapy, counseling, and when things were getting quite tough with my parents and stuff, I did go through, like, you know, a few sessions, you know, just to help. And I felt really embarrassed about it. Like, if I ever told my friends I went to a psychologist, they'd be like, "She's crazy," you know. So want to dissolve that kind of thing. Like, it doesn't mean that, you know, like, everybody needs to have somebody to talk to kind of like help them think from outside perspective, you know, things. So I think it was just like getting over that fact, and, you know, there's nothing wrong about looking after your health and mental health. You know, I think your brain is the most important part of your body. You know, they function in society, in life, and just everything for you. And like, I am so grateful that I'm able to be this open about it. And I was telling you, it's so nerve-wracking, because for so long I'll be like, I don't want to talk about it. I'm so scared of what people think, you know, of me. You know, I guess, like, you know, I wouldn't say I purposely people please, but I fall back into that, because I'm just like, okay, just to have that sense of belonging. But I released, like, you know, my episode on just myself recently, and that took me 4 weeks. I was telling you about it because I was like, I'm so nervous.
Yeah, to procrastinate because you feel like you're putting yourself out on the line, right?
For sure, for sure. And like, being vulnerable is it's actually so scary. And I think you and me was just agreeing that the fact that we're trying to look at it as more of, it's like, an indicator of when we're starting to feel a bit unaligned, rather than it being just labeled as a weakness. I think that has really helped. As in, being vulnerable, like me letting that guard down, is me being human. I think
Yes.
I see it now, rather than be like, this rock that doesn't feel
Right. The
Yeah.
shell that we're putting on, this facade that we're putting on, which is honestly a lot of society right now, right? If you look at people's Facebook feed, Instagram feed, is this engineered perfection of a specific perspective that we want the world to see us. But if you actually peel back the curtain, it could be chaos, right?
so
And
true.
there's nothing wrong with that. I think it just to normalize like conversations like this, that we do struggle. There's good days and bad days, and just acknowledge the different wave of human experiences. And when we can feel like, whoa, actually, this person who seemingly is perfect is actually not perfect, then we can relate to each other so much more. And that's where the power comes in terms of actual healing, because then we don't have to keep pretending to be this person, and then where we're just putting this mask on instead of being our true authentic selves. And I think the key points of this of healing for me would be acceptance.
Yes.
Number one, so which wraps into self-love, because if you love yourself, you actually also unconditionally love yourself. That means it's acceptance of all your own flaws, not to say that you allow yourself to just fall into this like victimhood mindset of like, oh, you know what, I'm now perfect, or I accept all parts of myself and now I no longer have to improve any parts of my life. I don't agree with that either. But it's like finding that balance of like, we're furthering along ourselves because we want to take care of ourselves, and that intention it's so different. And even though the action might be the same, but like your whole world of emotions would completely be different because we're just coming from love instead of fear.
Exactly. And that's a beautiful way to put it, and like the thing is like fear, your ego does get the best of you at times, like it's just like an automatic kind of like defense mechanism, what I would say. And
100%.
yeah, and I didn't understand what self-love meant, honestly, for so long,
Most people
because
don't. Yeah.
yeah, you don't know. And the thing is, I thought that because I was working out excessively, yeah, I'm self-loving myself, I love my body and stuff.
Yeah.
I like, buying all these foods to indulge in because that's self-love. But the self-love is actually a lot more to that as well. Like, like you said, it comes with acceptance, like it's okay that you feel weak. It's okay that you cry. And it's okay that, you might appear, someone might judge you because you know what, it doesn't really matter anyway. At the end of the day, what I've come to realize, like what I really think about myself matters the most.
Yes.
And the things like I used to care about people so much that I would always neglect that, kind of thing. And
Yeah.
that is part of self-love as well. Sometimes you do have to put yourself first, and it's not selfish, I would say. I think
Yeah.
back then it was more like, oh, am I being too selfish? Will like they not want to be
Exactly.
my friend? But it's just like no,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I love that. It's so true when you pointed out exercising and eating healthy as a way to take care of your body. And a lot of people confuse that with self-love, but in fact, that's self-care,
Yeah,
right? And it's just an activity that we do to make sure that we are nourishing ourselves. But I think self-love at the end of the day, it's like a bigger umbrella that encompasses acceptance, taking care of our body, and also being grateful too with what we already have. And that's the piece where it can kind of shift your mindset from worrying about the past or the future to back to the present moment. And I
that's
think
exactly.
meditation is where it allows you to practice that mindset. And with journaling, do you find that that's most effective for me when I get triggered to
Yes.
find my own patterns? And
Oh
that's
my
how I
God.
use it. Yeah. And what's
Definitely.
your
And
experience? Yeah.
what I've recognized is like, going back on like, the pages and stuff that I've written on, I'm like, oh my God, like I've already written about this before. Like, why am I still writing about this again? That's what I've recognized too, like what you said about patterns. Or I would just be like, reaffirming myself, like when I write things down, like Nhung, like, you're badass bitch, or you're a boss, you can do this, you can get through this, you've done this already. So just like kind of like things to kind of pump myself up and everything like that. And you brought back the topic of like, bring yourself to the present and being in the now. I think that's so important as well when it comes to, just really enjoying the journey and, accepting, yourself by being in the moment. I think what we spoke about last time is that like I used to really create this illusion for myself. What we did was being so hard on myself is to try and reach that destination and that goal that causes us so much stress. Um, so that's also another part of healing that I had to also learn is to try and really take myself back to being here in the moment.
Yeah.
I do overthink quite a lot as a person, and it was really bad back then. I'd be like, no way, by 30, I'm gonna be millionaire, gonna all this blah 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 blah. And I was like, oh, chill.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's funny, like, throughout my travels or like meeting people who are like older than me, they always say the same thing to me all this time. It's like, come on, like you're so young. Like, just enjoy the moment, take your time. There's actually no rush. At the end of the day, things will fall into place and things will happen. But yeah, like I was just like, oh, okay, like you're absolutely right. It comes from someone who's been there, done that. And it makes a lot more sense when when you have conversations. For me, it's been helpful, therapeutic for me, because I love talking, to meet people, to hear their stories, because it helps me also. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so true because our ego tries to keep us safe, right?
Yes.
And I guess, what was I trying to say? Kind of lost my train of thought. The ego tries to keep us safe. So then
Yep.
we want certainty. And so we're attached to a certain outcome, right?
Yes.
So
Yep.
when we have goals in life, right? Like by 30, we're going to be married with like 2 kids and 2.5 kids, and then a house, and then, a certain financial portfolio. And that's what society tells us what success looks like,
Yeah.
right?
You're
And
right.
when we don't achieve it, or when we fall away from it, like in my case, how I got divorced at 30, then I feel like this massive sense of failure, right?
Yeah.
And then, however, during the traveling journey, like you, I did a lot of solo traveling where then I just completely surrendered to the uncertainty of life. And when that's actually where the magic happens.
It does.
So, like, for example, I would usually plan a whole trip, all the details, right? Like, I'm gonna go from this point to this point at this time, via this route, and that type of trip is actually quite predictable and boring, even though it could be an exciting place. But
Yeah.
then eventually I got to a point where I would just book the plane ticket, and then book the first night of hotel, and the rest of the 3 weeks unfold on its own.
Yeah.
And that's when traveling became exciting and the most magical thing ever. And I think if we can apply this philosophy to life,
Yes.
that makes it so liberating, because we actually don't know what's going to happen. I got married never thinking I'll get divorced. Nobody gets in a marriage thinking, that's going to happen.
I know.
But like, life happens, and
Mm.
what do you do with that? And you deviate and deviate. And then, so if you can take life and really kind of savor each moment in the present, then you kind of make the best out of it. And the next moment, you just keep adapting and adapting. And then eventually you have built this beautiful life. So yeah, I just kind of want to share, like, kind of
That's
how I have
amazing.
navigated that as well.
Yeah. I love the way you talk with so much passion in it too. Like,
You too, right? I think Gemini energy.
my friends are always like to me, it looks like you got to break out into the Macarena when you talk sometimes.
I love that. We have two Geminis talking. This is very interesting.
I know, just so passionate. But like whatever you've said and experienced is definitely something that I would recommend to anybody. Like, it is so hard to not be fixated on what we've been conditioned in society. And from our culture, from social status and whatnot, it's so hard. Like this social media, oh God, love it, hate it. Obviously there's benefits, but there's also disadvantages to it too. And it's like you have to be strong in yourself, kind of thing. And I've been really trying to like navigate myself away from that. Like my success is completely different to whatever, let's say, my friends are at home, and it's okay that I'm all the way on this side of the world where all my friends are back home. And before the backpacking trip, I told myself I need to accept it. I need to go on my own journey, kind of thing, as my own person. And I miss them so much. I miss my family at times too. But I need to learn to trust my intuition. I feel like it's right for me to go. And there's so much more out there to see. Like and I think, like, when you're younger and stuff, and you're with your friends, your family all the time, you feel attached to them as part of your identity. They're part of you, and they will always be. But it's part of growth. Like you said, you have to let go, and learning to let go is scary. Like you're there alone. You're there in uncertainty. You plan a trip with no freaking plans, and then what if you get kidnapped? Yeah, it's scary. So, but trusting the process, like what you're saying, and having fun as you go has definitely helped, with backpacking. And I've met so many inspirational people during that trip too, and very like-minded when it came to, let's say, the things that I was going through. And I didn't know them, so it was okay for me to like, take off like pull down the drapes and like, this is Nhung, this is me, this is who I am. And it felt great, as compared to like people knowing me back at home, like, oh yeah, they know parts of me already. So like what you suggested, it is definitely so true. Like sometimes you do have to just go with the flow, like YOLO.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's also kind of like a combination, right? We do want a certain outcome, or I mean, a certain intention of where our life wants to go, right? Like, say, for example, you want a long-term relationship, but then you would want a long-term relationship, but it's kind of like how you got there. We cannot really exactly control. We can do the best we can, but like relinquishing control, I find this year has been the biggest lesson for me, even really for COVID, really. Right?
Yeah.
Because this is something that nobody predicted and we have no control over. And when we can actually just kind of ride the ride, and that's when things flow so much easier. And when we talk about manifestation and abundance and alignment, we don't have to struggle uphill, which I think as our background, we have
Mm.
experienced so much of that. Like, oh, we have to put up this wall, we have to struggle, and it's as an Asian as well. If we don't put in the work, if we're not militant with ourselves, then we haven't tried enough. And
Exactly. Oh
even
my
if we
God.
accomplish it, we're not that happy either. So then what's the point of life, right?
Mhm. And that's so true. And I just felt like, why has everything been so hard for me compared to all my friends? Like, I
Right.
always felt like, bad things always happen to me.
Mhm.
Family issues and living situations, or suddenly getting a car ticket, for parking somewhere. I just like
Mm.
felt really like, why is the world so against me? And what I realized, like, obviously, maybe it's just my mindset. If I keep thinking bad things, I'm attracting, creating more of that resistance for myself. And I also reckon that maybe things do happen for a reason, or it
Mhm.
does, I do believe,
Mhm. Mhm.
to teach me lessons. Like, if I didn't go through these hard lessons at such an early age, I wouldn't be as strong as a person, or being as empathetic towards other people in their situations,
Yeah.
and in a way, it sucks, but it's also seen as a gift or blessing in disguise as well,
Yeah.
Now that maybe I would have been a worse of a shithead. The meanest person, and be so entitled. But the fact that this has happened, it's really taken me down and be like, you know what, like I've seen what hurt feels like. I've seen how, as much struggle, my brother or I went through. Like, why do I ever want to make anyone feel that way, kind of thing. So
Yeah.
it's different. Life happens weirdly. Yeah, I'm starting to believe
Mhm.
more, kind of thing.
I love that because it's true. Life happened for a reason. And sometimes I feel like if you trust in God or the universe or whatever you call it, then it may be attracting those lessons for you. So you now have the skill set to
Yeah,
serve your purpose on
yeah,
earth, to almost share your stories. Because if you didn't have those upbringing, how can you create these stories now?
mm,
In order for other people to resonate with you and to lift them up, right? And because we've come from that journey and we're able to stand back up. And so at the end of the day, I think it really is a mindset as well. Like you said, you could come from a perfect family with no obstacles and come up like a shithead. Or you could come from the most difficult family, but you come out with like the most genuine, beautiful soul. But that comes with a choice,
yes,
a mindset that we put ourselves through. That, you know what, it exerts the same energy to
hmm,
go down the negative path or a positive path. It's like,
that's
which
true.
way do you want to go?
Hmm.
It's up to us. And I think that in a way is very empowering, um,
Yes, definitely.
because even though externally we cannot control the outside world, but we can always control what we have inside.
It is, yeah. And like it's this a test, honestly. Like, I was just telling you just before a call, I felt a bit triggered about something that happened
Mhm.
yesterday. And I've never felt so angry about it, or anything in a whole year, because I've just been like
Wow.
on Buddha mode and Zen mode, like the
Yeah,
whole
yeah,
year.
yeah.
To suddenly feel so much anger, and I was like, "What the hell? Like, where's this all coming from?"
Mhm.
Um, and then, but the thing is, like, I spoke to my friends and stuff like, "No, it's completely fine. You can't be like on a cloud nine all the time." Like, "Oh, you're
No,
absolutely
exactly.
right. Like,
Yeah,
I'm human. I'm okay." Like, so
100%.
but the thing is, it's better because I recognized it, and I did, some stuff this morning to help me put that energy under the rug
Mm,
and move on,
yeah,
because that's the best I can do for myself right now,
yeah,
right? Rather than just linger on things.
yeah.
But that's the thing, like, you just gotta accept that it's not always gonna be easy.
Mhm,
Things are
mhm.
always gonna go up and down, and you just have to deal with it. And there's always I always feel like it's gonna be all the way up. You're always gonna continue growing, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, through
Mhm.
experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that because I now actually like triggers. So in the past few months, I've done an intense amount of inner work.
Yeah.
And I was doing a lot of courses on healing my past patterns, inner
Mm.
child, shadow, alignment, manifestation, subconscious limiting belief work, like insane amount of work,
Yes. Yeah.
journaling, meditation, all of that stuff. So then those theories are now put into practice when I
Oh,
get triggered. So
okay.
now it's like, yes, I finally can practice this. Because like when everything is rosy and great and like, sunshines and rainbows, nothing comes out. Like your past programming,
Yeah.
it's not revealed to the surface.
Yeah.
But when you're triggered, that's like the perfect opportunity to look at this pattern. It's like, do you want to continue that? Right? What is my old programming here? And that's when I journal the shit out of it. And it's like, okay, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? Like, what do I want to do going forward? And so I think with 2020 being a really hard year for most people, when there's a trigger that comes up, I think it's really honestly a great invitation to look at, okay, this is what's happening, and observe without judgment.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, again, the acceptance piece, this is what it is, right? Is there anything within here that I want to change? And I can do it slowly, one step at a time. Nobody's forcing you to go anywhere, right? Like you said earlier, it just really a ride of a lifetime.
Yeah.
and we don't have to be perfect, and what is perfect anyways, right? So it's so great that you kind of brought up triggers, because I think that you can also utilize it as leverage instead of like a moment of like, oh my gosh, I got triggered today and that's a horrible thing. No, actually, yes, now it's like opportunity for growth.
Yes. And that's like what I kind of realized this morning too. Like, oh my God, like I feel so crap, so angry. Again, like I turned to the gremlin, not from Furby, I went to gremlin.
Which is so cute.
But then I recognize, like, you know what, like this is a pattern, like why are you letting this affect you? You already know, that you don't want to be in this cycle. So just accept it and move on, kind of thing. Like feel it. I think I've felt it all enough already. And straight after that, and I think I was telling you, I was talking to a psychic, so it's just kind of like get a good message a day. She helped clear that negative energy off me, and then it just lifted. I'm just like, whoa, I feel amazing again.
That's
So
great.
I just dealt with it last night. It was hard, but then this morning I'm just like, I need to kind of like really, really process it and get over it. And after that, I've been such in a good state. So that's why I'm so excited and glad to be talking to you right now, because this is also really, it's like, oh, let go.
That's amazing, because I feel like that's going forward. You can always use the skill again, because we will always get triggered again, right? It's always going to be up and down. So now you know your specific process that works for you. And you can just replicate that going forward. And if we were talking about relationships with anybody in the workplace or a romantic partnership or with family or whatever, whenever we have those like negative feelings, instead of shoving it down, it's like, okay, feel it in the moment, what's happening, and then you can move on instead of feeling bitter and resentful, which a lot of the times is what we do.
Oh my God, it's dangerous. It's like a ticking time bomb. Like honestly, like back then, like, oh my God, like you don't want to mess me. Like I think I kind of gave off that vibe, that don't mess with me vibe, because it's gonna explode.
Yeah, especially when you're competitive, like.
Maybe the Muay Thai didn't help too. They were like, yeah, definitely not gonna mess with her.
Like, don't punch me.
No, but I'm so glad that I would say that I'm in a better state of mind as I was compared to years ago. And I think I was telling you that my brother actually dealt with this, at a much younger age, because he was more emotional. Like every time when things happened back home, he would cry it out. He would be emotional. And I would be like, you're so sensitive, But what I didn't realize is he's so much stronger than me emotionally and mentally. As to me, like he's like, yeah, you can like punch and kick stuff. You're physically strong, but you just couldn't deal with these things emotionally. And I already dealt with all of this, already. So for me, accepting myself and knowing that I'm different, I don't care. I don't need anybody's validation. And I was like, man, I admire you.
Yeah, that is so amazing. That's such a good point, because now it kind of goes back full circle with the whole message of this video, actually, or even the community for unconventional Asians, for feeling different and unique and not needing other people to validate us. But the first step comes from processing our own emotions first, right? And then instead of putting this facade that I am strong on the outside, but weak in the inside, now we're going to turn it around to be strong on the inside and soft on the outside.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's the way it should, happen, and I got it the wrong way around. Sorry.
And I did as well. And that's okay. I think change starts with awareness, and we're on our way. And
Definitely.
hopefully our audience can relate to that as well, and have taken
Sure.
away like so much value here from our conversation, because I feel like a lot of women nowadays who are really career successful, driven, may share the same struggles. So we're just here to kind of remind each other that sometimes we want to again be strong inside and soft outside. Or you can be strong on the outside too whenever you need to call it, but we don't have to put on this armor all the time. It can get tiring.
It can get tiring, you know, and after a while, the thing is like it will come back and bite you in the butt, and you will still be facing with like the issues when you're alone. And that was another thing. Like I was so scared to ever be alone, you know, back at home. I'll be like every time I work, like, hey mate, who's ready to go Korean barbecue every single night? I'll eat so much and just go out because I couldn't be alone. And by traveling, you know, that gave me like, you know, that lesson and that realization, like, oh man, like I really need some time alone. You know, I feel great just reading a book on the beach and moving abroad. Like, you know, some days I have to be alone and stuff as well. Like I feel good. And when you're at a state where you be like, I'm happy being alone, I like alone time, that means like, you know, you're really getting into that, you know, the deeper layers of what it is that you're scared of. And that's the thing. I couldn't face it back then. I just hated it. But now I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm just gonna go meditate or read a book in my room and I'll be fine. Like talk to me.
So true. Like it's true. The older we get, I think we realize that we cherish our own time, and because you love yourself enough that you can sit in your own company. So that's amazing. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for this conversation. It's like we can go on forever.
I know.
I know we are twinning, but we will meet in Vancouver. I'm going to move there very soon in 3 weeks. So I'm sure we'll have a
meet up
together. Exactly. Yeah. Now, where can the audience find you? Because you said you have a podcast.
Oh yes. So if you guys would like a virtual traveling experience and listen to some fun you know, giggle shits and giggles and banter, then visit me at Limitless Callings. That's my Instagram, and my podcast is actually on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio, and that's also under Limitless Callings. Or you can add me on my personal account too if you need someone to talk to or whatnot. I'm all for making friends. So it's Nhung Ma, so NHUNGGMA. So funny name, but that's where you can find me.
Well, thank you guys for watching, and I guess I should have set the shout out right from the beginning, because Jen was here like right from the get-go.
Oh really? Hi, Jen!
And she's the one who kind of connected us as well. So I just want to do a shout out there. But anyways, thank you guys for watching, and until next time, dare to be authentic.
Yay! Be you.